Hello, guys. I'm here with Cody The Wolverine Stevens. Cody has 25 combined professional and amateur wins in MMA and Muay Thai. He's also a Jiu-Jitsu and Shingi black belt. Westside Barbell athlete training under Louis Simmons, and also the owner and head coach of Wolverine Style MMA. How's it going, Cody?
Excellent. Thankful to be here.
Nice drive on the way up here.
Oh yeah, I'm sunny, so better than rainy.
So your gym's out in Mansfield, Ohio.
Correct.
So what's the distance between like you coming here in Cleveland to from Mansfield?
Hour and 24 minutes.
Yeah.
Depending on how. Yeah, that's what my map quest says, but I can get here in like an hour and 10.
And you've been still right. Yeah, right. Depends how fast you drive. And you've been doing that too for years, coming to Strong Style. So it's not an easy drive coming in here. I mean, sometimes you're coming here pretty frequently, a few days a week. And now, how often you coaching here and training here?
On Thursdays currently. I come up on Thursdays, and then I come up on Thursdays to help with the fight team, with sparring, helping, assist in catching pads, working, everything, just helping the guys fill in some holes with my knowledge on MMA, with grappling, Muay Thai, whatever's needed. Team player.
Right, yeah, and kind of speaking of that, you got to that position from, obviously you've had a very long career, and competing in Jiu-Jitsu, in Muay Thai, MMA. How'd your career get started in kind of getting to where you are today?
It started with my wrestling. Wrestling is what introduced me to combat sports. Like I said earlier, like I did karate for like 8 months, but then like when I was like 8 or 9, but then like they changed what time The Simpsons started, so I opted out on karate at that time because I wanted to be at The Simpsons. But wrestling's what got me the start in MMA. I was a 2-time state qualifier from Mansfield, Madison, D1. I qualified my junior and senior year, and I lost placement both years in double overtime my junior and senior year to place. So like that always left like a bad taste in my mouth. And then I was working, and I didn't. I thought my athletic career was over then. Like so, like I was working on a drill rig. I remember like shoveling all the time, and I just felt like I was empty, and then I needed to fill a void. And then thankfully, some of my friends, MMA was getting a little popular around that time. And then my friends talked me into taking a fight on like 10 days notice, and I went down there and did it, and I won. And that like instantly, as soon as like my hand was raised and I had that feeling of being alive again in victory, I said, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life, no matter what. And that's exactly what I've done.
So I mean, and a lot of people have, they have like interesting stories like that, like things that former wrestler, former athlete, and it kind of, maybe it didn't end the way that you wanted to. You have a sour taste in your mouth, and then, this was the next thing for you. Do you think like wrestling helped build a foundation of you as a fighter?
Absolutely. Wrestling is my foundation, and still my foundation. It, like, my coach, Jim Spielman at Madison, he's a highly decorated coach with all kinds of accolades. But he was tough and stern, and but it was like what I needed at that time when I was in high school. So that definitely gave me the foundation, and it definitely laid the groundwork for me to be a successful martial artist.
So having like a stern coach like that, like how was he like stern? What did he do?
He just like he pushed everyone hard. He was like similar like to Marcus, like in that aspect, but like, we were in high school, so like he had to try to be like, he couldn't go too crazy. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't be so intense, but he was pretty intense. he always wanted to pull out the best in you. You know what I mean? He might have had like a rough exterior way of showing it, but I knew he was always wanting the best, wanting to pull out the best.
So, do you still talk to him to this day?
Yeah, I mean, we don't, like, we're not like great communication, but every time I see him, we still talk. Yeah, like he wanted me to focus. Like, he seen what I had, like what I had inside me, but I was too young and immature at that time, unfortunately. You know what I mean? I could have done a lot. I could have had a lot more success in my high school career than I did, and I could have went to college, but my head was not where it needed to be at that time, and I was just worried about running.
Yeah. So going back to your first fight, you get a victory, probably builds a lot of confidence in you after that first victory, especially after not having a lot of like formal training. You went 9-1 as an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
What was the next fight like after that? Like, did you start training regularly with a coach, or did you just wing it for a while?
So right after that, so I got my eyes swelled shut the first 7 seconds of that fight. My whole thing was like, I was like, God, I can't be letting these guys that I work with heckle me. And so I had to show them video that I won, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So after that fight was over, I was like going out to get my own gear. So I like went to Plate Again Sports. Like, for people that don't know what that is, like used sporting goods. They had some new stuff and you could buy. So I was like, oh, I'm going to give me some, gloves and some mitts and try to figure this shit out. And I went there and I seen a sheet of paper that said Rec Room Athletics. It was like Matt Trukovich and Mitch Weitzel. And they had a gym in Ashland. And I went over there and I started training, but I started training on the weekends there. So so my first fight was June 3rd. My next fight was July 31st. So but I worked out of town all week long. So I was only home like on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So I would train. We were like down at that time we were working down in Kentucky, like, I forget what part of Kentucky we were in, Prestonsburg or something like that. Well, I'd work 12 hours on a drill rig. Then I would run from the job site back to the hotel because I didn't have anything. It was like we're in this rural area. So then I had some hand weights, and I had boss rooting on what the hell did I have? I actually had an MP3 player or something. I had like a little MP3 player to be able to listen to it and do like this boss. Or if we had a place that had a pull, I'd do a pull where I would get on their Nautilus machine that they had or whatnot, and I'd just figure out, then I'd come home on the weekend, I'd go straight to the gym, and then we would train, at least once, if not twice a day while I was there. Then if not, I would always go home and do extra stuff too.
So, kind of like, that's really old school.
Yeah, that was way
training.
Old school,
yeah. I mean, it's very hard to do that now, but you were working full time,
Mm-hmm.
working probably a lot of hours and training part time. When did you go from training part time? You're like, hey, I could make a career out of this and do something with myself. So when did that take place where you stopped working?
I had 10 amateur fights in 18 months with a broken jaw in between all of that. So these little soft ass dudes these days have no fucking clue what the fuck I've done or what people laid the groundwork for the sport. Like, I fought June 3rd, July 31st, August 13th, September 16th. September 16th was my first time fighting at NAAFS, and that was like the premier Ohio league at that time. And I got my jaw broken the first round, but didn't know it. I go back to my corner and I'm like, oh, my tooth, I feel like my tooth's loose or something. They're like, oh, it's all right, man. They're like, I took my mouthpiece out, blah, blah, like, oh, you're doing great, blah, blah. So then I start the second round and they don't have my mouthpiece in my jaw because I couldn't really bite down on it anyways. So I start the second round, and I see my corner to the video. If I watch the video, he's like trying to it was Mark Maffini was the ref, old OG ref. he handed it through the cage and he snatched it through the cage, and like Mark was waiting for a break in the action, he just stuck it in his pocket. And then, but there's never a break in the action. The guy like threw an uppercut, I slipped it, and I got to his back, and then he like I got to his back, pushed off the cage with my foot, and ended up in mount on him, and just started striking until he died. The ref stopped it.
So you break your jaw in that fight. You find out afterwards.
Oh yeah. So then I break my jaw in that fight. So I break my jaw in that fight, and I'm in a little bit of. I spit a whole cup of blood, like half a cup of blood, and I go up to the physician and I'm like, man, this feels weird, blah blah blah, and they're like, oh, you have a cut in your mouth. It's all right. That's literally what they said. But I was like, they're like, oh, it'll be all right. Maybe check with your doctor or your dentist in a couple of days. So I'm like, I'm like 20, I'm like 24 at that time. It was like my dad's birthday, and I was like, yeah. I was ready to go celebrate. I was like, so I went and celebrated that. And like that night, I went to eat a pizza roll. I remember this. Went to eat a pizza roll like 3 a.m. and collapsed to my knees because how bad it hurt. And then I didn't go to the next day. Then I ended up going to the hospital on Monday, and they told me my jaw was broke. I was getting ready I fired up the drill rig, and I used vibration to drill, so I turned on the drill rig, and it started shaking, and it was like my jaw, and like it was just hurting because it had been a couple of days since the break, so it was inflammation, blah, blah, blah. So they took me to the hospital, and they told me my jaw was broke, and I literally started crying because I thought that I always heard like people get a glass jaw. Like I thought I'd have a glass jaw and I would never be able to fight again. And I was like, I finally found something that I love and that I'm passionate about. And then I was like, is this going to get like, am I not going to be able to do this? Or am I going to be this guy with a glass jaw, blah, blah, blah. So, but fortunately that wasn't the case. But unfortunately that was in my mind going into my next bout. So they had told me, to wait 6 to 12 months to fight, to let my jaw fully heal. They said 12 months, they said 6 before it's like you even start doing anything. Like I got my wires off, I got the wires removed, like so 6-7 weeks after the break on a Friday. Strong Style had a grappling tournament. I wasn't training at Strong Style at the time. Strong Style had a grappling tournament the next day. I went up the next day and won the grappling tournament at Strong Style.
Wow.
I had to go against some tough people. I was my first grappling tournament ever. I had to go David Raines. Like David Raines was one of the guys that I went against back then. Like, and David was like highly decorated wrestler. And David's a great friend of mine. You know what I mean? Like I competed and did well there. But then into the fight, when I got to that fight and I waited 5 months. So I fought 5 months after the broken jaw. I didn't wait 6. So I waited 5. I didn't have a whole lot of guidance at the time too. I would just, there's more friends that I trained with. Like not like we were like, they weren't like they were like meant to, but we were like a bunch of friends training together. So like, yeah, man, fight. You know what I mean? You're tough.
Like you got to do it.
Yeah,
right?
blah, blah, blah. So I went into that fight and it was just like mentally, I was like, oh, I don't want to break my jaw again. I don't want to break my jaw again. It was all that was in my head, and went out there and just underperformed. But
is that when you got your first loss?
That was my first loss.
You were 9-0 at the time.
I was 4-0 at the time.
4-0. Okay,
so then I lose this guy Zach Moomey, who was like, he was a tough amateur, like ranked number 1 in the state at the time. So then the fire's lit. And I'm like upset. I'm ready to get this motherfucker back. So I'm like, I'm going to get his ass back for sure, 100%. So I start looking, I'm like, who has this fucker fought previously? He fought like Ray Jones. So I seen him like, okay, Ray Jones, he took him to decision. I was like, I'm going to finish that motherfucker. So then I fight Ray Jones on St. Patrick's Day. So I fought him February 16th. This is, mind you, then I fight him a month later, that Ray Jones, in Mansfield, and I TKO him in 50 seconds. So then
You're on a warpath.
Yeah, I'm on a warpath. So then I see Mike Nesto was like, he was he was an NAAFS lightweight champion the year before. So then I'm like, I go after him next. So then I go after him, and I won a unanimous decision against him. And then I go offshore to Alaska to work on, I was like 3 miles off the coast of Barrow. So I spent the summer up there, as a roughneck. But they knew that I trained, so they had like a row machine and a bag and everything down there. So I could, after like 12-hour shifts, I could still go down there and get work in. So I could still work during that summer. Then I came back, and I fought in November. I fought this small Paul Martin. It was the first time NAAFS had been taped for TV, and I submitted him unconscious in 22 seconds. And that gave me put me in position to go back against Zach Mooney. Because whoever beats that Paul Martin, that was going to be who fought Zach. Because at the end of the year, they would take the top 2 guys in each weight class, and you'd fight, and they'd call it like the Night of Champions. So they'd have amateur, that was the first 45-pound title fight they ever did. And they had lightweight, welterweight, all the way up to heavyweight. And Stipe was supposed to fight that night too, but then he had broke his hand, and then had to end up fighting that Josh Stansberry like later on that following year. So we got there, and I was totally different from that fight against Zach Mooney. I was like locked. I was ready to go against him, and I went in and had a great performance. Like I was like standing up with him because he was a big boxer. Dude had a 74-inch reach. I had a 66.5-inch reach. He was like 5'9", so he had this reach of somebody like 6'4". So I was trying to clinch up with his ass. So I was clenched up, like we were dirty box. So I ended up winning a split decision. But yeah, it was one of the best fights everyone would say in the NAAFS. I ended up winning a split decision off of him, but and then he ended up retiring after that.
Did he know you were coming for him?
Yeah, he knew. Like he looked defeated after the fight. Like he knew. Like because then at that time, like I was catching my feet, dirty boxing, but he cracked me at the end of the first and second, or like end of the first round. He cracked me. Like I fell against the cage, and like this cage like pushed me up, like boom, and I like popped up off the cage, and the round ended. But then I remember looking over like Steve Hyman, R.I.P. And whoever was the other announcer. I remember looking over and I shrugged my shoulders and like, apparently, you'd hear on the video later, like, apparently Cody's all right, blah, blah, blah. So then after that, like, I was like even like pulling guard in that fight because my jiu-jitsu was 10 times better. And I was active off my back. If I pulled guard, I'm hammer fisting. I would always call it like a dirty white boy guard. So I'm getting in there and getting after it. You know what I mean? But
that's awesome. So you got your revenge that you were looking for and stuff.
Retired.
And then, all right. So let's go into your professional career. You in MMA, you have 14 victories in MMA. What was like one of your most memorable victories?
Well, the Nate Jolly was a big victory because that was literally the fight I came back after my broken leg, after I broke my leg. So I broke my tib fib in my 4th professional fight, and that was what gave me my first loss. So I was 3-0. Then I broke my tib fib, and I had it repaired, and I had broke it November 20th. I had 2009. I had surgery December 1st, 2009. I fought Nate Jolly and beat him. So this is the shit. So like this Chris Wyman shit, this Chris went through, okay, he went through that broken bone, but that motherfucker had the Rolls Royce of recovery, PT, all that shit. I did this shit before he fucking did this shit. Like I did this with no PT, no guidance, no nothing, like nothing. Like, so I broke it in December 1st of 2009. I fought and beat Nate Jolly July 31st, 2010. So not even like 9 months. I fight this guy, and he was because the guy I was supposed to fight, it was at 145, got injured, like he had a concussion. Tony James, I was supposed to fight him. He was a tough kid. He got injured 2 weeks, take 2.5 weeks before the fight. So they're like scrambling around to get someone for me, and I needed rent money. Like I needed this fight, so I needed this fight. So they're like, we can go up to 155, and like we got Nate Jolly. He was like 27-3 overall at the time, like 6 or 7-1 as a pro. Like they're like, his name was the ladies love Nate Jolly.
Was he good looking?
He was a decent looking dude, you know. He had a little mouthpiece on him. Probably I could tell, but he probably just had a good little game with the ladies. So they're like, this is who we got. So I'm like, run it. You know what I mean? Literally after I say that, I re-injure my leg, my broken leg, and I'm on crutches. So I say that like 16 days before the fight. So like I'm like sparring, like I had shin pads on and everything. I throw like a leg kick and don't even get checked, like hit his thigh, and I just like drop. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Again, like I wasn't doing PT. Like I was watching YouTube videos and trying to figure it out on my own. So like, I don't know what's going on. So then I'm on crutches. I'm on crutches all like until like 4 or 5 days before that fight. So like I couldn't train. I could train. I couldn't like train martial arts. So what I did like 1,000 squats, like every other day. And I would figure out some other stuff doing between, but I could stand. So I could just stand and I would sit to a box. I just rep until I hit 1,000. And that's,
you're built different.
That's what I did there. And then, I went out and, you know, I won a decision, a unanimous decision off Nate Jolly. And that was a huge victory, you know, and all those little things. So like, that's memorable because like I broke my leg. And even before that, like after I beat Donnie Walker, like a lot of people don't know this stuff either. Like, unless you look into like my whole history, like after I beat Donnie Walker, like that August before, or no, it would have been like almost 2 years before that Nate Jolly fight. I beat Donnie, win the NAAFS featherweight title. Then I break my hand a few weeks after that. But then I end up getting, unfortunately, I get an OVI, and I end up spending 10 months in jail. So after I win that NAAFS fight, I ended up spending 10 months in jail. I had to argue and fight because then the courts weren't wanting me to fight. They weren't like, MMA wasn't on ESPN, so they weren't looking at it like it was like a respectable sport. They were calling it glorified cockfighting. So they weren't going to let me, and I was on probation. I was supposed to be on probation for a couple of years, so they weren't going to let me fight. I had to like argue and plead, and they had to people ended up bringing down contracts and showed that I was actually legitimate and like blah, blah, blah. I had a 3-fight contract. So they ended up letting me fight. But this had been like 14 months since I fought. And then 20 seconds into that fight, I break both bones in my leg. So then I'm down that whole other time. After I just had on this big high and everything going, I just win this title. So then I break my leg, or so then I get in trouble and I spend that year and then I break my leg. So, and I broke my leg. Like my mom was always supportive, like, but are you, and especially after I just got out of being incarcerated, she's like, are you still gonna keep doing this? Like, after you broke, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna fucking keep doing this. If any, like, I would like flip out if anyone asked me. Like, I was like dead set. That's what I was doing. And I proved it, you know what I mean? And that's why that Nate Jolly was like a big victory for me. And I went on like a 7-fight win streak after that too.
Do you think that win streak too was kind of motivated by all that you went through? And then having a victory of a guy that won 27 amateur and professional fights, so you go on like a win streak. What, at that point, you started to become a pretty successful professional fighter, and then you get a loss at that point, right? So what was What was that like, and did that change after that next loss? After that next loss, yeah.
So I was on. So after that, you know, because even when I broke my leg, I didn't consider that a loss. I was like, no, he didn't beat. I mean, I broke my leg, but I was like, he didn't beat me.
Yeah, you won, but you didn't beat me.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready so I fought Calvin Kattar. So my next fight is against Calvin Kattar. You know, he's top 10 in the UFC still currently. I go into his hometown. I go up to Massachusetts to the promotion at Combat Zone, to what I think he now owns the Combat Zone. But so I go and fight him in his hometown at 45. I still want video of that fight because I had his back at the end of the first and third round with like a minute left. I dropped him with the right hand in the beginning, at the first beginning of the second round. He spent maybe got a little bit more top control, and he landed one big elbow on me from top. But you know, that crowd was hostile. Like, they would throw beer bottles at the cage and shit like that. But so after that loss did messed with me a little bit, because I started I had all this negative self-talk to myself after that. I remember I put my Facebook profile picture at a coffee mug of the world's greatest loser. I was like, so I did all this stupid negative self-talk to myself, and it was, super counterproductive. But then, I realized that all that negative self-talk wasn't going to do me any good. So, I had to work through that.
So, faced with a lot of challenges, breaking your jaw, your hand, your tib, your fib, you broke a lot of bones. You've had a lot of injuries leading up to that, overcame a lot of those things, and you've had a very long career leading up to your last fight, which was, what was it, 2000?
Yeah, it was 2018 on my birthday.
So that was your last MMA fight. Obviously, you've suffered a really tough injury. What was that like, and how did that change the course of what you were doing afterwards, where you took your MMA after that?
So that whole fight, we're trying to get someone to fight me at the Nautica, at the what they call it, Plain Dealer Pavilion now in Cleveland. So I'm trying to get someone to fight. They're trying to find someone. They're like at 45, and they're like, we got this guy at 55. I'm like, I'm 45. Maybe Alex was helping assist with organizing that fight. They're like, okay, 50. And I'm like, all right, we'll do 50. All right, we'll do 150. All right. So then we're going for 150. I'm just finished up one of my last harder little fight week workouts, and then I was heading to Cleveland Cryo to get some cryo done. And I started getting a call from the promoter, scumbag, Jeremy Caudell, and he's like, hey, man, your guy's having a real rough time, man. He's first it was he broke down in Chicago. You don't know if he's gonna be able to make it to weigh-ins, blah blah blah. He's having don't know, actually he didn't know he's gonna be there. He didn't know if he could get a tire or something. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do about it? So then he called me back, and he's like, he's peeing orange. He's peeing orange, and he's not going to be able to make weight. Would you take the fight at 155? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm not going up a whole nother weight class. I'm not going to, no, we're not taking the fight. But then at that time, I had $10,000 in ticket sales. So I needed that money. You know what I mean? So I'm bouncing around in my head. And we end up getting there the next day to weigh-ins. He ends up making it there. He must have found a tire or whatever. He ends up making it there, and he ends up being 3 pounds over. He ends up being 153. So I'm a 45er, and I gave him 5 pounds, so I'm basically fighting at 55. So I'm there's did we take it or not? I hadn't fought in over a year, and I was gonna be turned 35 or 36. Yeah, I was gonna turn 36, and then so I needed to get going. You know what I mean? If I was going to make another run. So we ended up taking the fight. But the whole stupid thing with Ohio too, like they made us re-weigh in still as pros. Like we had to weigh in the night before, that I could only get like 10 pounds. So it was all like, so they made like the rule, he was only gonna be able to come in at 158 the next day at noon. So that was like, since he didn't make, that was kind of like he could only gain 5 pounds or whatever. Well, anyways, so everything, we end up going in this fight. I get at the venue at like 4 o'clock. We don't fight until after midnight that night. Because some other guy broke his arm, and so they had, like, the squad had to leave. It just got drug out that night. And like our warm-up area is all outside, and this is at the end of August, in Cleveland. So we go into that fight, first round starts, I go out, we kind of clinch up. He hits a little trip and like puts me on my butt, but I work back up to my feet and then end up taking him down about 2.5, 3 minutes into with the left in the first, and end up, I hit him with some ground and pound and control him for the rest of the round, win the round. He was like 6 foot. He was a bigger guy, tight. He's a striker. So, my goal was, I knew I had the edge on the floor. So I would put his ass on the floor. So then the second round starts, boom, boom, boom. I'm closing distance, looking to cut him off and drive him against the cage. Well, I drive him against the cage, and I feel like a strike, but it was like a hard strike. And it's like I instantly couldn't see. Like so I'm driving down, I'm driving against it. I'm like level change. I'm driving in. Then all of a sudden, I felt like I said, it wasn't a hard strike, but I felt like I couldn't instantly see. So then I fell to my back. Because he kind of throws like an up, like punch like this, and it goes like his thumb like this, goes 8 millimeters into my eye, and my globe of my eye ruptures, and like basically, like, so I had the contents of my eyes going out on my face. Now I'm not laughing. That's fucking funny now, right? I guess what can you do? So I fall to my back, but then he's like trying to ground and pound, trying to throw some hammer fists. So I see his foot. So I'm like, I look over with my left eye. So I look, and I'm like trying to finish this fucker. So I'm going for a heel hook. I'm like, fuck it. Like I was like, I didn't realize how bad it was, but I'm like, I know I need to turn it on or else this fight's gonna get stopped. So then he ends up like trying to like running man out. So like I sit up to get top position, and when I set up, they like see how bad my eye is, and the ref stops it. And I'm like, why are you stopping it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, well, I got to where I needed to be now. Like, like,
I'm safe.
So they stop it. And then, I'm just like upset, and then they call the fights, and I'm just mad. I'm mad. I'm upset. I'm like fucking furious. So I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I gave 2 fucks about this. Like, I was like, we'll, ice it and we'll figure this shit out. And so I was concerned about the fight. So then they go back. Friends are like, someone tried to put ice like on my eye, because they kept saying it was the doctor, the physician, that doctor don't need to be a part of the Ohio Athletic Commission anymore. He said it was my orbital. Like, it's not my orbital. It's my eyeball is filling. Like, I couldn't see it, but Melissa, even like my wife knew. She knew it wasn't my orbital. So we're in the back and we're waiting. Lexi, so I was co-main. Lexi was the next fight. So then they're like, they're waiting to call the ambulance, but like I'm just still heated. So I decided the ambulance was trying to get through. There's a bunch of craziness happened that night in Cleveland. So I ended up walking to the ambulance with my eye like this, like, so my heart rate's probably like pumping. I get up there and I get back into the hospital. So there was like 3 other people that got hit by vehicles that night in Cleveland. So we're at Metro and we're in the back. Like, I didn't barely have any sheets. I had like 1 sheet. I'm like just laying there. I'm just like upset, laying there. And then the doctor comes in and talked to my wife and probably thinks I'm sleeping or whatever. And they're like, I hear him say, well, we may have to remove his eye tonight. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, no, please, no. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, no, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you, they're like, then they started telling me, and I'm like, oh my, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm laying there in pain. I'm laying there in pain, and then I hear this voice. Cody, it's Chicken Hawk. I was like, Chicken Hawk's from Westside. So Chicken Hawk he's a nurse at Metro and actually distributed the medicine. So he came there and like, it was just like, he came there and gave me some medicine to put me at ease, you know what I mean? But I was just like it kind of got, like, you know, he's a good friend of Melissa and I's, and it just, so it kind of helped calm me down a little bit. Then that next, I had surgery. Luckily, they were able to suture my eyes shut. You know, I remember Joe Delguy and Victor was there for me the next day, you know, and for my wife. And I kind of got lost. I got off tangent here a little. Oh, but how it changed, how it
it's fine.
Progressed my career. So obviously, it was like my career got cut short. I thought I was going to be able to continue fighting. So then I ended up having to go through multiple surgeries. They sutured it shut, then have to remove it that night. So I had to go back in, and we had to figure out what all happened. So what happened was, when the trauma happened, it did a funnel detached retina. So when the trauma happened, it pulled my retina to the front of my eye and rolled it up like a burrito. So then they had to go in and lay it down and then put oil on it, clear out a path, lay it down, kind of like probably like sew it, but not, you know what I mean, trying to get it to stay. So they put oil in the first time to get it to hold. You know, Marcus and, you know, Strong Style, all you guys, like, I didn't have like a lazy boy or anything, but you guys, everyone came together and purchased a chair for me to lay in, because I couldn't lay on my back. I had to lay flat down, or I had to lay on my side for like 7 months.
I remember that.
So then it came detached again. Then John Gunther was getting ready for like UFC 25-year anniversary. So once that happened, like cause that's why I had oil in the first time and not gas, because I wanted to be able to travel with him. I wouldn't have been able to fly if they had put gas in it. So the next time after that, his fight, they ended up putting gas in it, and it came detached again. And there was just so much scar tissue and trauma from what happened. They just, like, the Dr. Ewing from Cleveland Clinic, he's a great doctor. There was nothing more they could really do, you know? So he was asked if I wanted to remove it and get like a fake one, you know? And I'm like, but that bitch is gonna like pop out when I do anything, or I'm gonna have to take it out. It's like, it would be kind of cool to like get ready for a grappling match and like, here's, put my mouthpiece in, take my eye out. But I was,
you're
like,
a sick man.
Yeah. But so I was like, don't do that with my, I was like, I don't want this glass thing, just leave it. You know what I mean? He's like, well, if it bothers you, we can take it out down the road. I'm like, I don't want to, it's good. I'm cool with it.
It's like a battle scar.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not the happiest story, but it obviously changed your career a little bit. And now you kind of think about it, it's silver lining to everything.
Anytime something bad happens to me, I like try to, you know, I always know there's people worse out there than me, you know, and I try to find the silver lining through that. So like, it happened on my birthday too. So my plan was win that fight and go on vacation. Like, but that didn't happen. So I was like, you know, I was blessed to have 20/20 vision in both eyes for 35 years of my life. And then, you know, some people are never even blessed to ever even see one day of their life. So, you know, I looked at it like that, and I looked at it like, you know, I still had a decade of being able to compete and travel the world, and I still had jiu-jitsu. I still had a bigger purpose with guiding athletes and helping people through martial arts and giving back to what like this life, this way of life, this martial arts way of life has provided for me. Like, am I rich? No, I'm not rich in like material things, but I'm rich in love, and I'm rich and with being able to be passionate and do what I love to do. And I'm like, I thank God every day. I pray. I'm so thankful that I get to do what I love, and I get to make a living doing it. So it's like I'm truly blessed, and it just gave me motivation to push hard. I mean, to grow these athletes, because I knew like my athletic career was like done besides jiu-jitsu, but like I have a bigger purpose of helping out a lot of these athletes in Mansfield, and up here as well. But Mansfield's like a rough little area, you know what I mean? There's a lot of good, but it can be rough, and there's not a whole lot of outlets there, So like I have a good group of gym members like across the board. I have fighters, but then I also have people I'm just helping better their life and give them an outlet and helping them with fitness and help them with depression, help them with anxieties, so, I have with everything that's happened to me, I live like an ultra blessed life.
I think it's like one of the greatest jobs in the world, like working in fitness, but to be able to do it because obviously you have like a background in strength training through Westside. And I think that being like a coach is, especially in combat sports, it's like one of the greatest jobs in the world. And people can tell how passionate you are. You've obviously built a really good thing at Wolverine Style MMA in Mansfield, and you could see it through the videos that you post up, and you could tell that you actually give a shit about the people that you train, and you put a lot of time into these athletes and stuff, and people notice it, and you could tell that your gym is definitely growing, and you're doing great things out there.
I appreciate that.
I talk to Marcus all the time about it, and he's like, I think you guys are like very similar. I don't know if you've been told that before, but you guys are just like, I broke my jaw, and fuck it, I'll fight in a couple weeks from now, or I broke my leg, but it's okay. I still get to train. You guys are crazy.
Yeah, Marcus and I have a lot of similarities. Like, it's like a lot. I've been told that if anyone's as similar to Marcus, I'm right there. But I take that as a compliment.
Yes.
It's a great compliment.
Depends on what we're talking about. It could be a compliment or
go both ways.
But it seems like so to kind of finish up a little bit, talking about your gym, Melissa was pretty accomplished at powerlifting, strong as hell, and been doing it for a long time. And I see her doing a lot of mitt work and pad work with stuff, and she's playing a big role in this. She seems more than supportive. She's like a part of the whole thing. So that's awesome. Like, what's that experience been like, having you guys doing this whole thing together?
Yeah, that's been we've grown together, matured together. Like Melissa's like 100 pounds. It was like 100 pounds when we met, and was trying to find like elliptical, and did treadmill and found her way. And, I kept encouraging her. She kept finding, she like found CrossFit. She liked kickboxing. We're doing pads. Then after her first powerlifting meet, then that's like, she was naturally strong. She pulled like 250, like at 120. Didn't really know it, with no minimal technique. But then she started getting in with a powerlifting team in Mansfield. Then she ended up getting on the Westside, and, she's on the board still. That's boards, covered up and will ever be touched again. So she's a part of history forever. At 123 pounds on the board, she squatted 485 pounds.
Probably one of the more respected boards in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
On powerlifting.
Yeah, so that was always nice to see my last name on there, even if it wasn't it wasn't me that did it. Still, like, my last name was on there.
You're still a strong dude.
No. So
you're not pulling, you're not just pulling weight that is just strong pound for pound. Like, it's I've seen you lift. I've seen your training, and it's awesome. You obviously put a lot of work in the strength training, you both, and Do you do that a lot with your members too? You focus a lot on strength training?
Yeah, I mean,
like Westside principles and stuff?
Yeah, I incorporate a lot. Like I do more functional with the athletes, like because just with time restraints and some of them, like if I could get that, when some of them turn pro, we can maybe like start. Because I basically like the guys will run like a big 3 to 4 hour practice night. So use it to like do like heavy strength training after like doing 2 like boxing and then jiu-jitsu. It can be a little counterproductive at that point, but we do conditioning, and I do a lot of the functional. I mean, we're doing sled work, war wagon, like that's weekly routines along with carries, and I'm big on at least pulling, making sure we pull, at least deadlift with the guys. But I'm also like got to make sure I'm incorporating single leg movements. So I'm like, I definitely take a lot of the Westside principles, not so much of the strict powerlifting, but more of like what like I would learn from Tom Berry too, as well as like how to incorporate into she's like a lot of functional training.
And the mindset too, beyond just the structure of it. I mean, there's a mindset that you guys had training at Westside, as a fighter and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's a lot of that you incorporate in your training as well.
Say that one more time.
The mindset that you have training at like Westside.
Oh, yeah.
The type of mindset there is different.
Oh, it's like I went down. I always had something to prove down there. Like I would, even through all my injuries and my radius was broken too. Like I was still going down there doing lower body, one arm stuff. I remember like we didn't know my radius was rebroken. I pulled like 315 with a broken radius one time, like shaking to get it up. But no, like I would be here Monday, Tuesday. I would go down there on Friday mornings. So I'd go down there on Friday mornings when I was still competing professionally in MMA, and then AJ Dobson, Miles Robertson, Chad Kelly. This is before Chad came up here. We'd all be down there. We'd just all get together, and we would Tom would put us through, like we'd always do sled work, and we'd do like SSB, all just whatever it may be. But no, having that mindset and being in there, like it would be early morning workouts. That'd be towards the end of the week, and I'd be like, I'd be feeling it a little bit. But like you get like on that drive down, and you get there, and you get in that energy. I'll find a way or make a way to make sure I have to get done what needs to be done.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the it's interesting to hear you coming from Westside, training there a lot, and Marcus trained there a lot, and it's a different mindset. Obviously you guys were like tough people prior to that. I think there's a lot of structure that you guys got from there, but how much is like training there influenced like you training as a whole, like in MMA and strength training? Has it been pretty influential training at Westside?
Oh yeah, it was. I used every day I use something I learned from Westside. So it's not, it may not, even if it wasn't a certain technique, it was the mindset. You know what I mean? It always comes into play, or maybe something that, maybe like a cue or something that Louis gave me, or maybe so sometimes Louis wouldn't give people shit all the time, but like, especially like you can give the big, like he ain't going around cueing everybody, but if you listen, you'd have to listen. If you listen and just hear what he would say to certain people, I would just always kind of like, I don't want to like stalk him, but like I was always like
always learning.
Yeah, I was always trying to walk or be like this so I could hear his ass, so like I could hear what was going on, because I'm like down there to learn and soak up the knowledge. You know what I mean? So like, and that was the other thing too. Like I'm always open to, to learn, and I always want to learn. I feel like everyone can contribute to someone learning something. Like everyone should know probably something that I don't know. You know what I mean?
Being a lifelong student.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's one thing, so training at Westside under Louis Simmons, he's a legend. What's the one greatest takeaway from training with him? What's one thing that you learned from him that's stuck with you to this day, that still you hear that voice in your head?
Big ain't strong, strong is strong. Or, like that, because, he would always say that too, because everyone's like, oh, the biggest guys, the biggest guys. But like, these biggest guys weren't always the strongest guys. Let's go pound for pound and see who's the strongest. You know what I mean? If we want to go, not just how much weight you're moving. So I always thought that, because I always appreciated that. Because, yeah, you want to have these, like half 1,000-pound bubble, squat, press. But like Louis in his head, he knew, like, he liked the pound for pound. Like, he respected that too. Some of the bigger guys might have been like, you ain't, you're only doing 300 or 400 pounds. But, if you go body weight, that's very impressive. So I always took away that. And how his mindset was just like, how he was. You take Louis' plan A away and he's going to go to plan B. Or he's plan C. He's just going to maneuver and change and never give up. Like, through his whole career and everything that he did, he never stopped, no matter what. Even when I was down, we would go down there even towards the, last couple of years of his life. When we were down there, like, Louis would still fight like a little, he'd be doing a little something, take a couple dumbbell, do a little band work. He was always doing something, and I always admired that, and it killed him to not be able to compete anymore. I can relate to that, you know what I mean? Like, but that's why he was so passionate also just about continuing to leave his legacy and just have his, build as many strong people as he could.
That's awesome. That's a great takeaway. So last thing here before we wrap it up, it's got a lot of accomplishments in your professional and amateur career. Growing a gym, it's definitely not easy, but you seem like you're doing a really good job doing in that, and it's a very bright future. When it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for in your career as a person? What's the most important thing for you?
I want everyone to know that I was passionate and that I loved mixed martial arts and, and fitness and strength. I love this, the whole, like, just know that I like, this is, I'd sacrifice my life for this, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it until they throw dirt on me. I mean, that's the only thing. I don't have hobbies. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about fucking football. I don't care what some team's doing. I watch martial arts, and I care about my family, and I give a fuck, like, and like God, and trying to do the right thing. Care about my gym. Care about all of you guys. Like, care about, like, but outside of that, I don't care. I don't like hobbies. Like, I went and took my daughter and watched Trolls over the weekend. That was super cool to me. And just know that like I wear, like, I always fought with my heart on my sleeve, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. You know what I mean? So, like, I didn't get to reach like as high as I wanted to in mixed martial arts in my career, but I know, but I gave it everything that I got, and I worked and sacrificed and pushed, so I'm at peace with that. But I still need to get a couple champions. So from out of the gym.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've already made a big impact, and I think you've reached levels a lot higher that originally when you probably started, you're like, I want to be a champion one day in this, but like, you've already strived, I think, much past that, and I think you're super accomplished, and this is just the beginning, in a new career, and we're proud of you, and we're thankful that you're part of the gym, and your impact on our members, your members, and we love this connection that we have now from Wolverine Style to Strong Style, and appreciate you as a person.
Oh, I appreciate you guys, and I mean, I carry Strong Style on my back always and forever. That's why why the gym was named. I've had 3 different names. It's like had Wolverine MMA and Fitness Center, and had Wolverine MMA HQ. But I was talking with Marcus, and I just like wanted to pay homage to Strong Style, and that's why I changed. And this is the name. No more change. I'm Wolverine Style MMA and Performance. So I talked to Marcus, and he was like, absolutely, I'd be honored. So I just like Strong Style, like through all of my years of different people I trained with, I always wanted something like Strong Style has provided, and I had a lot of people that I started with, like, pretty much they like turned their back on me or went a different path, and I never had a different path. My path was martial arts. I wasn't going to go do CrossFit to make or whatever, whatever it might have been. So when I found Strong Style, and I and Marcus and I were friends earlier, but I wish I'd have came to Strong Style sooner. But it all happened at the right time, and I'm blessed to be here, blessed to be a part of Strong Style, and blessed for everything that I've got to learn through Marcus and through the athletes and other coaches at Strong Style.
Awesome, man. Well, I think everything went well, and thanks for coming on, and look forward to the next one, and hopefully you have a lot more stories, but less broken bones.
Yeah, I got stories I haven't even released. I got all kinds of stories.
We'll save it for chapter 2.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
All right,
thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you.
All right, bro. Yep.